Hello and namaste, guys. I am Dr. Anushruti, and here I am back with an exciting episode. Well, I thought why not to discuss running? I know running always gives us an excitement in our body. So, for today's discussion on board, I have Dr. Meghan Hyde, who is a physical therapist and, of course, a gorgeous woman and a running coach. He is joining us live directly from USA, so let's welcome her. Hello, Dr. Meghan, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is ours. Well, running is an aerobic exercise. So, Dr. Megan, how do you feel? Like, how much is running important in a fitness regime?
It's specifically running is not important. It just depends on what the person wants. The importance is really just what they enjoy. But if you like running, it's a very good exercise. It's good cardiovascular. It's good for your, mind, body, and soul. I like to say it's a very I like to say that I have a very holistic outlook on it because there's so many more benefits than just the physical aspect of the body. But yes, that's hopefully that answers your question.
Okay. Well, you promote running so much. You are a running
Mhm.
coach. So, what do you feel are some major life changing benefits of running that people should adapt running in their lifestyle?
So running in itself is interesting because it can be an expensive sport, but it can be inexpensive. You don't need to necessarily have a membership. You can look up things online and you just put your sneakers on and go outside. And that's the cool thing about it is the outdoor aspect of running and just being in that environment. It really takes us away from our grind day to day life that current society is very adept to. And it makes you not only work on obviously your aerobic fitness and cardiovascular system, but just the mindfulness of being outside, hearing your breath, hearing your steps on the ground. That's why it's a huge benefit. And for someone that's looking not even just for health purposes, maybe someone who wants to, like lose weight and they're not necessarily looking for like, oh, I know it's incorporated in health too, but it can be aesthetic, right? Running can help you, promote calorie burn, and it's just
So,
an
do you
easy
feel like
way.
running can be a part of therapy, physical therapy?
Physical therapy.
Yeah, can running be a part of a therapy? Like in any medication, is running, helping us out?
Oh, yeah, sure. That's an interesting question. Usually runners come into physical therapy because they're injured, but it absolutely can be a part of it as a progression from, let's say, if someone has had a former, um, let's say, heart disease or something that they were told they need a period of rest for, to rest the cardiovascular system. And then now they're walking and they're ready to progress that. Running can absolutely be a progression from that. And that'll be a part of the physical therapy routine if it works for them. If they like biking, that's something they can do as well. But of course, it involves the strengthening component of the cardiovascular system.
Well, we have a lot of guys in my audience who are listening and watching this right now. So, for them who are beginners in running, who are about to start the run after listening to you right now, what do you feel are some five basic mistakes that they should actually avoid or they should take prevention of before starting this running?
Okay, good question. So, five mistakes to avoid. I would say is number one, just going right into it without any type of warm up. And it doesn't have to necessarily be anything complex. You can just walk. I have a lot of my runners just walk for 5 minutes before they start. So, number one is not doing a warm up. Number two is trying to run as fast as you can right off the bat. The goal with running obviously is just the longer duration. So, especially if you're just starting right away, start slow, slower than you would even think that you should, because typically that gets you a little bit longer, faster. So, and then number three would be assuming that you need to just run. You can do a run walk routine, and a lot of people benefit from that right away because many people are just starting to run. They don't have the adaptations yet. So, walk run method is huge, and you don't even have to follow a specific ratio. You can run as for a few minutes as you feel, walk a few minutes, recover, and then do it again. It doesn't have to be like an all effort. Number, so that's three. Number four, I would say, is just running, meaning you're only running, you're doing nothing else. You don't do any strength training or stretching, or I'm a big advocate for recovery exercises such as icing and foam rolling. And so I think it should be incorporated with other things. That's the best way to stay injury free. And number five is not fueling after your run. I would probably mention the nutrition part of running is we can't ignore that, especially if someone's trying to lose weight with running. It can be causing more inflammation and damage if you're not uh, allowing those muscles the nutrients that they need, basically when they're getting pushed to their limits. And especially if you're starting brand new, it's a high stress thing. So I would say those five.
So, as a running coach, you would have trained a lot of runners in your career. What are some injuries that are very common in your career? Like, what are some injuries you have encountered in the patients and your trainees that you feel that are very common for people who run?
Okay, so I would say number one, especially new runners, shin splints. That's huge because the lower extremities just aren't used to that pounding on the pavement. So there's definitely many different things that could cause that, and everyone is different. But overall, the load is just a lot based on what the body can adapt to. So I would say that is my first thought. Number two is likely runner's knee, which is basically it could be a just an abnormal pull of the patella tendon. The patella is not actually getting strong enough, pulled directly upward by the quad. So there's some weakness compensation going on that's causing some abnormal strain. Um, and probably I would say maybe IT band syndrome, which is another knee area. Pretty much you're thinking lower extremities for the most common injuries. So IT band syndrome is similar to patellofemoral runner's knee, patellofemoral pain syndrome, which it's like a tendon on the outside that it actually attaches all the way up at your hip first at a muscle that flexes the hip, and then it goes down to the outside of the knee. What happens with that specific diagnosis is again some sort of imbalance that either the hip flexors are working like higher than they should in terms of the quads aren't offsetting that pull, and on the inside it's really just an imbalance that is an overstrain on the outside of the knee.
Okay. Dr. Megan, we have a lot of type of runnings. Like I am not specifically naming the terms because I do not know what are the basic terms of running. Like I do have heard about a long run, base run. So what
Yeah.
is Dr. Megan's favorite type of running and why would you advise that type of running to people?
Favorite type of running. I'm a big fan of time-based running, and it's not specifically there. It's not a threshold run. It's not a base run. The reason I mention that is because most people now are trying to squeeze running in within their daily lives, their crazy daily lives. And I work with a lot of females with young kids and females who might have more intense careers. So they're not necessarily training for something. They're just they want to run to feel good. They want to run for helping themselves just have them time during the day. So what I really like programming for them is just go out for 20 minutes versus like having specific mileage based like sets. I like to say, time blocking is really helpful. So I would say as a whole to call that time based running. If you have 30 minutes in your day just to run, then do a 5 minute walk, do 20 minutes run, and then a 5 minute walk cool down. And that run could be a run walk, like I said, but that helps a lot of people who are thinking too much about what should I do? How fast should I go? Like, let's get back to basics and just squeeze it in your schedule first, and then we'll go from there. That's why I like time based running.
So ultimately, you just want to say that start running, at least
Yeah,
start running.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, Dr. Meghan, here I would like to introduce you to one of the segments in my show that is to answer the questions of my followers and clients. So, I do have a lot of questions for you, and I'll be asking some selected questions. So, are you ready
Okay,
to answer these?
sure.
Well, the first question comes from Shankar from Udaipur. He says, Hi, Dr. Megan, how are you? Greetings from India. I want to start running. What should be my basic training program?
So if this person is not running at all yet,
Yeah.
and I'm assuming their goal is just to run and they don't
Yes.
necessarily have anything specific yet. And that's
Yeah.
okay. You might find that after a month you're like, okay, let's do a 5K or something. For someone like that, I would say, first of all, you're not going to run every day. You're not going to end up doing back-to-back days. So to make it easy, you could do Monday, Wednesday, Friday running, and I would start with a 20-minute block on those days because that'll give you, let's say, about 4 to 6 miles on your feet just to start. That's a good base. And then from there, I would do that for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then you can build up the time on your feet. Meaning, and I wouldn't jump from necessarily 20 minutes to 40 minutes every day. Maybe after a few weeks, do one day that you're doing 30 minutes. And then after a few weeks, you're doing 2 days for 30 minutes. It doesn't have to be as complicated as people make it, but I would say consistency, not running every day, and just picking a time, going to run, walk when you feel you need, and just be out there for a period of time.
So, everyone who's like Mr. Shankar, this is your reminder to start running and note down this basic training program by Dr. Megan. So, moving on, we have Jaydeep from Punjab. He says, I run normally around 10 rounds of 4 kilometers each. Do I have to wear some safety kits because I have seen some runners doing it? Is it necessary in part of running?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
He says that he runs. He is a runner. He runs around 10 rounds of 4 kilometers each. He's asking that he has seen a lot of runners wearing helmets and knee caps. So is he supposed to do that? Is it necessary to wear safety things while you are running?
Oh, no, you don't have to. I actually am surprised. Maybe where is this person from?
From Punjab, India.
India.
Yeah,
I
we
don't.
know here I have seen a lot of runners and cyclists, joggers. They do wear some kneecaps, elbow caps, and helmets. I don't know,
Yeah,
maybe especially when there's a marathon in my area, they really
yeah.
do have all these safety kits, a water bottle here and everything. So
Interesting. It's not like that in the U.S. Of course, with cyclers, it's important to wear a helmet, because they're doing a little bit more, especially if you're doing in the trails. You're doing different elevations
I
and hills
believe
and
to
stuff.
run, you ought to set your body a little free. What I think, like if you are caged with safety kits and everything, I believe the running would get impacted. What do you think?
Oh, I that is an interesting way of thinking about it. I I I don't see it as necessary. If someone is worried about, their coordination and tripping a lot, that might be a different story. But I think that's another thing that gets people just thinking about too much information. we're in such an information age that I think it could limit you, like what you're saying. Like if it works for you, it works for you. I don't necessarily have my runners do that because they don't need to. But if you're in more unsafe and uneven terrain areas that you're going to be tripping a lot, that's a different story. But I don't think it's necessary.
Okay. So, Kajal from Ahmedabad. Hi, Kajal, how are you? She says, Hi, Dr. Meghan, greetings from India. I can't run for more than 6 or 7 minutes. Why is it so? Also, I have weight around 45 kg and I am 20 years old. My stamina, people say, is very low. What should I do?
Okay, good question. So stamina, the biggest thing that I think about with that is just how consistent is he being? Is he trying to run, 6, 7 minutes every single day? You do want to have consistency, but some variability. So I would break it down at 2 or 3 days of trying to run. Let's say if he can only run 6 minutes right now, let's do 4 minutes. And then you're going to recover, walk for a minute, and we'll do that multiple trials. And then you have one long day that you're working on building up to past 6 or 7 minutes. And that might not happen for 4 to 6 weeks, but we want to think about how consistent this person is. You definitely want to have a few periods during the week that you're doing shorter runs, and that could include walks. And then one day on the weekend, if he wants to build up his endurance, then that could be his endurance day. It might not come right away, but my thought off the bat is there may not be enough consistency for him to see aerobic changes that he wants to see.
Dr. Megan, as we just discussed stamina and a lot of things that are contributed to make a good runner. You answered me in the very first or second question that diet is also a very big fact of matter here in running program. So what are you going to suggest? A proper diet, what should it include to be a good runner?
So diet, you definitely want, everyone's different in terms of what works for them with, some people are vegetarians, some
Because I
people,
have, what, Dr. Megan, in India, we do have a lot of vegetarians and then vegan, they are also coming a lot. But here I have seen what I personally have witnessed here that people, when it comes to strength training, when it comes to running, when it comes to do some certain exercises, what they do, the first thing is to quit on food. I don't know if
quit
the
on
aim is
food.
to lose weight or no or what, but they just stop eating some different kinds of food and what they are dependent on very basic counting the calories every time and like a very I would say nutrition deficit. I mean I do not know what to term it as, but they are just off the food. They do not like to have food and start cutting on everything.
Okay. That's probably too many changes they're making at once. That's my thought initially. If you're looking to, let's say, lose weight, because that's something a lot of people, that's their focus, you still, if you're adding in the component of burning calories, you don't want to drastically deficit your caloric intake because your body is going through a state of inflammation with the new exercise. So you really do need to replenish those needs so your muscles can build appropriately and you can actually have, the benefit that you want. If you're going to do, like, let's say a long run and then you're skipping a meal after that, you're definitely putting yourself at risk for injury, getting sick. The body definitely needs the fuel it needs. I would say with the culture that we're in now, focus on what type of fuel you're putting in your body. And I'm a really good advocate on eating things that are the most nutritious in terms of trying to avoid processed foods. Like if you're someone that really likes, fast foods or things that you're buying from the grocery store that is in packages that last a long period of time, there's a reason it lasts a long time. There's a lot of stuff in it that's not necessarily good for us. So trying to stick to, good fruits, vegetables, obviously protein is very important to replenish the muscular demands that we're putting on the body. and good fats are really helpful for sustained hunger. And but like I said, with everyone's different in terms of what they like and what they want to choose. The balance is key. Balance of different portions of proteins, carbohydrates, and fats on your plate, and really just not having a lot of processed inflammatory foods.
Well, Dr. Megan, last but not the least, we do have a lot of runners about to be runners. So, what will be your advice to them? The biggest advice you would like to give them before they jump into the running process?
I would say you got to be patient. Changes don't happen right away, and be consistent, but have variety. Those are the three things I would mention.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Megan, for joining in and taking out time from your schedule to speak to us, especially giving and enlightening us on this wonderful topic, enthusiastic topic, running. With this is your reminder, everyone, to have your spine straight, straighten your back, and start running. Because I know most of you guys do want to run, but get tired while having the idea of running. So why not to listen to this podcast and then start your running with the guidance of Dr. Megan? Well, till then, take care. Goodbye. We'll see you in the next episode.